We're on DAF Yud Dalet Amud Aleph in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, this is the next Mishnah in YOMA. So it says, Kol Shivas Hayomim Hu Zorek Es Hadam Umakdir Es HaKetores Umeitiv Es HaNeiros Umakriv Es HaRosh Ve'es HaRogel. So during these 7 days of sequestration of the Kohen Gadol, he's not just sitting around reading magazines. He's working. He's like a Kohen Gadol in training, and he's got to be doing the avoda to get into shape. So that, because it's a very rigorous activity on Yom Kippur, his job, and so during these entire 7 days, he's obligated to do the Zrika Saddam, to do the sprinkling of the blood of the Korban Tamid. He's got to bring the Ketores. He's got to clean the charred wicks every morning, clean out the wicks out of the menorah, and he's got to bring the head and the leg of the Korban Tamid onto the Mizbeach. Usha'ar kol hayamim imratz lahakriv makriv. Now, during the rest of the year, the Kohen Gadol has the prerogative to insert himself into anyone's day of work and say, I'm taking over, guys. He can always step in there and just say, it's my turn, right? And that's not true by any other Kohen, except for the Kohen Gadol. Shekohen Gadol makrib chelik berosh v'notel chelik berosh, because the Kohen Gadol has the prerogative to take the first or the best job of the karbanos, and he can take the choicest portion of gifts to the Kohanim at any time he wishes. That's his special Zechus. The Gemara now says, Mantana. Who is the author of our Mishnah? So we're foreshadowing a problem over here. So Amar Rav Chisda Deloka Rabbi Akiva. This cannot be like Rabbi Akiva, this Mishnah. Di Rabbi Akiva Ha'omar Tohar Shenafla Alav Haza'a Tam Aso. He says Rabbi Akiva, as we'll see in just a moment, has an interesting shita. He says that when any person is sprinkled with the water of the Para Aduma and he's Tohar, then that sprinkling renders him Tameh. If so, then how can the Kohen Gadol, who's being sprinkled every day during a sequestration with the water of the Paraduma, then how can he do the avoda? If he's rendered tameh, according to Rabbi Akiva, how can he do the avoda? Now, what is this machlokas? Let's see the source. Titania, the Brisa says like this: V'hizah hatohar al hatameh. So the pasuk says that the person who is tohar shall sprinkle on the person who is tameh. Now the words al hatameh is superfluous, as the Gemara will speak out shortly. So why does it have to say those words? To teach you al hatameh tohar ve'al hatohar tameh divrei Rabbi Akiva. It's to teach you that when you sprinkle on a tameh person, you render him tohar, but conversely, when you sprinkle on a tohar person, you render him tameh. And as we'll see, you're not rendering him with a huge major tumah. He's tameh until he goes to the mikveh and has hair of shemesh, and the sun goes down, and then he's tohar again. But there's a paradoxical quality about the waters of the Para Aduma that even though it's metaher esat tmeim, but it's also metame esat tahorim. It renders a person who's tohar tameh. V'chachamim omrim ein hadvarim halalu amurin ela b'dvarim hamekablim tuma. And the chachamim disagree, and they say that what the pasuk is trying to tell you when it says v'hiza hator al hatameh, that it's telling you that the water only has efficacy as water of Para Aduma water when it's being sprinkled on an object or a person that's subject to being makabel tumah, that can be makabel tumah. Now what that means is, you'll see in just a second, but you clearly see that the Chachamim do not agree with Rabbi Akiva. The Chachamim are of the opinion that if you sprinkle water on a tohar person, that person is tohar. So that leads the Gemara to conclude that our Mishnah must go like the Chachamim and not like Rabbi Akiva. Because the only way that the Kohen Gadol can do the avodah if he's had the water sprinkled on him is if he remains tohar. Okay. Maihi. So what is the shita of the Chachamim? That the water is only considered to be efficacious when it's being sprinkled on something or someone that is makabel tumah. Kidit nan. As the Mishnah says, Niskavin lahazos al habehema v'hiza al ha'adam. Let's say you have your hyssop brush that you've dipped in the water of the paradum, and that's what you use to spritz. You use that to sprinkle. Your original intention was you have a live sheep in front of you. For some bizarre reason, you plan to sprinkle the water on the sheep, but instead, you ended up sprinkling it on a human being. So the halacha is, yet yeshaneh. Then you can use the remaining water that's in the brush after the first sprinkle and sprinkle it again on someone, and it'll have the efficacy of para aduma water. However, niskavin lahazos al ha'adam v'hiza al ha'behema, but if your intention was to sprinkle on a human being, and you accidentally or unintentionally, for whatever reason, sprinkled on a sheep instead, so then, im yesh be'ezov lo yishane, if you have leftover water in the brush after that initial sprinkling, you cannot use it again to sprinkle a human being. Now, what's the reason for this? The reason for this is because by sprinkling the para aduma water on an object that is not meant to be sprinkled upon, i.e., it's an object or a person that is not subject to tumah, so then you violated the usage of the para aduma water, and thereby you've contaminated the rest of the para aduma water that's in the brush. Meaning that the Torah says that you're not allowed to do gratuitous avoda with either the para aduma or with the water from the para aduma. If a person ends up doing that gratuitous work by sprinkling on something that doesn't need to be sprinkled, that's not makabel tuma, so then the water, all the water that was part of that sprinkling, is rendered to be contaminated, and therefore, if I sprinkled on a sheep, I can't use the remaining water to sprinkle on a human being because that water is now contaminated. And therefore, what the Chachamim are essentially learning from this pasuk is that the only time that it counts as valid para aduma water used for its proper purposes if it's being sprinkled on a person or thing that is subject to being makabel tumah. If it's a live animal that's not subject to being makabel tumah, then by sprinkling on that object, I've contaminated the remainder of the para aduma water in the brush. That's the ramification that the Chachamim see in the pasuk. They read the pasuk as v'hisa hator al hatame, he shall sprinkle the water on something that is makabel tumah, not something that is tummy, but something that is subject to kabbalas tumah.
One that's maza is tar.
Well, we'll see about that. Let's take it one step at a time.
And if you do it without the proper intention, have you accomplished, has anything happened to the...
We have no indication that intention is a factor when it comes to the sprinkling of the para aduma water. All we see from this sugya is that if you get sprinkled with the para aduma water in your tameh, you're purified. There's a machlokus between the Chachamim and Rabbi Akiva. If I'm tohar and I get sprinkled with it, am I rendered tameh or not? That's all we've seen at this point. We don't know anything about the sprinkler. We don't know anything about intentions. That's all we know for now.
If you have to take that brush and put it back in the receptacle, does that contaminate the rest of the water?
It could contaminate the rest of the water. I don't know about that either. Perhaps it depends on whether you have a shear of bittul or not. That's not probably something that's discussed somewhere else, but we're not going to see that discussion here. So now the Gemara says, "My time to Rabbi Akiva." So the Gemara's question is, what is Rabbi Akiva's reasoning? Where does he see in the pasuk that by sprinkling on a tohar person you render that person tameh? Because he says, "Nichtov rachmana v'hiza hatohar olav may al hatameh shmamina al hatameh tohar ve'al hatohar tameh." Rabbi Akiva says the words al hatameh are completely superfluous because we know we're talking about purifying a person who's tameh. So why does it have to say on the impure person? It could have just said sprinkle on him. The answer is that it's coming to connect tohar to tameh. Whoever is tohar becomes tameh, and whoever is tameh becomes tohar as a result of the para aduma waters. V'Rabbanan hayle dvarma mekablin tumahu da'asa. And the Rabbanan disagree, and they tell you no. V'hiza hator al hatameh means that you shall sprinkle on something that is makabel tumah. If you're not allowed to sprinkle the water on something that's not makabel tumah, like I just spoke out recently. Aval hacha kal v'chomeru. But in a case of we're sprinkling the water on a person who's tohar, there's a logical argument to say why that person will not become tameh, and that is im ala tameh tohar, ala tohar lo kol shekeh. If by sprinkling the water on a tameh person you render them tohar, then surely by sprinkling on a tohar person they should not be rendered tameh. So the Gemara's answer is for Rabbi Akiva, Hainu dekamar Shlomo amarti achakma v'hi rechoka mimeni. So the Rabbi Akiva's response is you're trying to apply logic to a mitzvah, which is the quintessential mitzvah that defies logic, and that's why he cites from Shlomo HaMelech that I thought I could be wise, said King Solomon, but meaning the mitzvah of paraduma, is quite distant from me because it's completely counterintuitive. And part of its counterintuitiveness is this quality that it has, this paradoxical quality that it makes those who are tohar tameh, and it makes those who are tameh tohar.
It's a fakerta logic.
It's a fakerta logic. Azoy. Right, there you go. The Rabbanan hahu lemaza ulemazan alav tohar v'nogeya bahen tameh. So the Gemara now says the Rabbanan agree that there's something paradoxical about this mitzvah, but it's not about the sprinkler nor about the sprinklee, because both of those are always going to be tohar. It's only referring to a person who's not involved in the process and he touches the water gratuitously. In that situation, anyone who touches the water for no reason, that person becomes tameh. But whether you're the sprinkler or the sprinklee, you can never become tameh. The Gemara now says, umazeh tohar. You mean to say that according to the Chachamim, the sprinkler is tohar? But what about the pasuk, v'aksiv umazeh mehanida yechabes bigadav? Now let's look at the Torah. The Torah says explicitly, umazeh mehanida yechabes bigadav, that he who sprinkles the water, mehanida, if he sprinkles the water, he shall have to put his clothes in the mikveh, which means he's now tameh and he transmits tameh even to his clothing. V'hanogeya b'mehanida yitmad ha'arev, and he who merely touches the water, then he shall be tameh until the evening. So the pasuk seems to be saying that both people are tameh. My maze nogeya. So the Gemara says no, that's not the taich in the pasuk. What the pasuk means is when it says he who sprinkles really means he who touches. The Gemara says, but how can you say that? V'aksiv mazeh v'aksiv nogeh. How can you say that? The pasuk divides the two. The pasuk explicitly says, he who sprinkles his clothes shall become tameh, and he who touches, he shall become tameh. So how can you tell me they mean the same thing? Va'od mazeh boy kibus begadim nogeh lo boy kibus begadim. And furthermore, their halachas are different, because the person who sprinkles is tameh plus his clothes are tameh. He needs to take his clothes to the mikveh. But a person who just touches it, his clothing is not tameh, just he himself is tameh. So elamai mazeh. So the Gemara says you're right. The word sprinkling in the pasuk does not refer to a person who touches it, but rather refers to a person who's noseh. He carries a receptacle that contains the paraduma water. The fact that he's bearing the weight of the water makes him even more tameh than a person who just touches the water, and therefore he's tameh and his clothing is tameh as well.
Sprinkler.
No, he's not the sprinkler.
The
Gemara is clarifying that when the Torah says sprinkler, it does not mean sprinkler, it means carrier. So now the Gemara says, v'nichtov rachmana noseh. The Gemara says, well then why didn't the Torah say that directly? The Torah should have just said carrier instead of sprinkler, to clarify what it means. My time eksiv mazeh. So hakamash malan deboinan shir hazah. It's telling you that now this is the beauty of Torah Sheba'al Peh. What you see from here is that Torah Sheba'al Peh, Chazal had a Mesorah, that the pasuk really doesn't mean what it says. The Torah says, he who sprinkles shall become tameh. Chazal say that the Mesorah is no. He who carries it is tameh, provided that he carries a minimal amount of water that is required, the requisite amount that is required for sprinkling. Meaning that the reason why he calls it the sprinkler is to tell you that if he carries an amount of water that is less than is needed for sprinkling, then he will not become tameh.
If you learn the Chumash, you'd never guess this.
You would never know this from reading the pasuk, right? So now the Gemara says, Hanicha l'man da'amar haza'at tzvi chashir. The Gemara says, but wait a minute. That only works well if you hold that there is a minimal shear for sprinkling. But el l'man da'amar haza'at ein tzvi chashir ma'ika l'meimar. But there's another opinion that says that there is no minimal shear for sprinkling. And if so, how can you tell me that the Torah is conveying to you that there's a minimal shear for carrying? The Gemara says, "Afilu laman da'amar haza ein tzricha shir hani mili agaba degavra, aval b'mana tzricha shir." So the Gemara says, no, you misunderstand. The only time there's a machlokus whether there's a minimal shear required or not is as far as how much water gets sprinkled on the human being. But everyone agrees that there's a minimal shear of dipping the brush into the water. Everyone agrees that there is a minimal amount of water that has to be absorbed into the brush. The machlokus is there a minimal amount of water that has to emanate from the brush during the sprinkling onto the human being? That's the machlokus. But everyone agrees that there is a minimal shear that has to be absorbed into the brush. Ditnan kama yehi bahen v'yehi kedei azah, as the Mishnah says, how much water must be absorbed into the brush in order for there to be the minimal shear required? Kedei sheyitbal Rashi give olin v'yazeh. You have to be able to dip the tips of the brush into the water so that there's enough to sprinkle with. But if you just merely touch the surface of the water, that's not enough. Okay, fine. So now the Gemara is basically saying the whole reason for this whole discussion was to try and suggest that our Mishnah cannot go according to Rabbi Akiva. Because Rabbi Akiva, after all, says that once you get the water sprinkled on you and you're tahor, you're rendered tummy. So how then can I do the avodah if I'm tummy? So Abaya wants to try and say no. That whole premise is incorrect. This Mishnah could go like Rabbi Akiva. How? Afilu tema Rabbi Akiva David avoda kula yoma ulapanya madu alei v'tavil v'abed herav shemesh. He says very simple. Have the Kohen Gadol do the avoda for the entire day, from 9 to 5, or whatever the working hours are during the daytime. And then, after he's finished offering the very last korban of the day, sprinkle the water on him at that point, and then immediately he's rendered tameh, and then he should go to the mikveh before sunset, and then at Shkia he has herav shemesh, and now he's tahor again. So he's only become tameh for a very short period of time in the afternoon after he's done the avodah. By tomorrow he's already ready to do the avodah again. So even Rabbi Akiva can be reconciled with our Mishnah. Yes, it's possible that he's being rendered tameh every time you sprinkle the water on him, but you do it at the end of the day after he's finished with the avodah, so he doesn't have a problem.
Rabbi, I see the logic from Rabbi Akiva is that the man gets from Torah tameh because, let's put it this way, when he sprinkled with water Torah on it, he became tameh. Yeah?
That's what Rabbi Akiva says.
Why did he say it? The logic why? Because it didn't mean to be, he should not be if any sprinkled water.
You mean don't sprinkle him if he's not tameh?
So,
okay, listen.
It was not meant that the Torah water should
perhaps that's true. But listen, at the end of the day, Shlomo HaMelech couldn't understand it. So I don't know if we'll be able to come up with
that. It has to be our order.
Okay.
If it's Torah,
okay.
Did you guys
it doesn't have to have the water anyway.
It could be that's the argument. I don't know. Okay, very good. Umaktir es haketoras umeitiv es haneros. Now let's go back. The Mishnah had said that this Kohen Gadol during the 7 days is supposed to offer the ketores and clean the wicks. Now look very carefully at the order. It sounds like from the Mishnah that in the protocol of the morning is first you offer the morning ketores. They're supposed to be offered twice daily, one in the morning and one in the evening, in the afternoon I should say. And then it says in the Mishnah, clean out the wicks. So it seems like that's the order, right? So the Gemara says, Alma ketoras bereisha v'hadar neros. It seems like that's the order. First you offer the ketoras, and then you clean out the wicks. So the Gemara says, Raminu, let's raise a contradiction. Misha zacha b'dishon mizbeach ha'panimi, u'misha zacha b'menorah, u'misha zacha b'ketoras. We have a sequence of Mishnayos in Maseches Tamid, which is a series of Mishnayos which deal with the protocol of offering the korban tamid in the temple. And it says very clearly over there, the first Mishnah says, the Kohen who has the role of taking the scoop of ash from off the altar. Then the next step is the Kohen who is in charge of cleaning out the menorah. And then the third step is the Kohen who's in charge of offering the ketoras. So you see the order is reversed over there. In the Mishnayos in Maseches Tamid, it talks about first cleaning the wicks and then offering the ketoras. And our Mishnah has the order reversed. First you offer the ketoras and then you clean the wicks. So which one is it? So Amar Rav Huna man tana tamid Reb Shimon ish hamitzpehu. Answers Rav, it's a machlokes tanoim. The author of the Mishnayos in Maseches Tamid is identified as Reb Shimon ish hamitzpeh, and he clearly is a different Tana from the Tana of our Mishnah. We'll call the Tana of our Mishnah the Chachamim, generically, right? It's a different opinion. And so the Gemara now says, wait a minute, how can you say that? But we know that it can't be Reb Shimon ish hamitzpeh as the author of Maseches Tamid because of the following. Ditnan, Bala lekeren mizrachis tzefonis, that the Mishnah in Maseches Tamid says that the proper protocol for the placement of blood on the altar from the Korban Tamid is that you're supposed to go to two opposite corners of the altar while you're standing on the ground, and you place blood on the corner where the two sides of the Mizbeach meet, and you draw a line of blood such that it's in the shape of an L going from one corner, to cover two sides, okay? And you do that on two opposite sides. So basically what the Mishnah says is, V'nosein mizrachat tzafona. You go to the northeast corner of the Mizbeach, you paint that line of blood on both the north side and the east side so that they're connected in the shape of a letter L. Then you go to Ma'aravis Deromis, no saying Ma'arava Deroma. And then you go to the opposite side, which is the southwest corner, and you paint the same line of blood on the south side and on the west side, so that you have that letter L on the opposite side. Betani Allah, but then there was a brisa that was taught that Reb Shimon Isha Mitzvah Mishaneh Betamid Mizrachas Tzifonis Nosim Mizrachas Tzifona Ma'aravis Deromis Nosein Ma'arava V'Yachar Kach Nosein Deroma. That he changes the protocol. According to him, that's not the proper protocol. According to him, when you get to the northeast corner, he agrees that you paint the letter L that connects the north side and the east side. But when you get to the southwest corner, you don't connect the south side to the west side with the line of blood. You paint a separate line on the west side, and you paint a separate line of blood on the south side, but the two lines do not connect at the corner. Now, why that is not our discussion for now, but the point that the Gemara is trying to prove is that you see clearly that the anonymous author of the Mishnayos and Maseches Tamid is not Reb Shimon Isha Mitzvah, because you say that Reb Shimon Isha Mitzvah disagrees with the Mishnayos and Maseches Tamid. So you can't, you've misidentified the author of Maseches Tamid. Ella Amar Reb Yochanan Mantana Seder Yoma Reb Shimon Isha Mitzvah. Who? So the Gemara says, you're right, you misunderstood. What we meant to say is that the author of the Mishnayos and Maseches Yoma is Reb Shimon Isha Mitzvah, who disagrees with the protocols that are mentioned in Maseches Tamid. So Maseches Tamid is the Chachamim, and Maseches Yoma, which says that first you offer the ketoris and then you clean the wicks, is Reb Shimon Isha Mitzvah. It's a machlokas tanoi. So now the Gemara says, V'rami Seder Yoma, Seder Yoma. Okay, that's fine, that you can reconcile the Mishnayos and Yoma and the Mishnayos and Tamid by saying it's two different authors. But now I'm going to show you a contradiction within Maseches Yoma itself between two different Mishnayos. Ditnan, because we're going to learn in the next parak how they did a daily lottery to see which Kohen would do which avoda on a daily basis. So they did something called a payas, which is a lottery. We'll learn about that in a few days. It says payas hasheni mi shochet mi zorek mi medashin mizbeach hat penimi umi medashin es hamenora umi ma'ale evorim lekevesh. They did the first lottery, which we'll talk about later. Then they did a second lottery, and the second lottery was who's going to be in charge of shchita. Then part of that lottery was who's going to be in charge of zrika, who's going to be in charge of cleaning the ash off the mizbeach, who's going to be in charge of cleaning the wicks from the menorah, and who's going to be in charge of placing the limbs of the korban tamid on the ramp leading up to the mizbeach. That was the second lottery. Now then, payas ashlishi, chadoshim laketores, bo'u vehafisu. The third lottery was whoever has not done this yet before in their life, come to partake in the lottery for the ketoris. Now we'll see why this was a special din, that if you wanted to offer the ketoris and be part of the lottery, you could never have done it before in your life. Because as we'll learn later on, offering the ketoris was a special segula for ashiras. It was, if you offered the ketoris, Chazal say that you received the blessing from Shemaim to acquire wealth. So therefore, they wanted everyone to have an opportunity to win that Zechus. So they wouldn't let a person who had previously offered the ketoris to get online. And by the way, that there's a remnant of that halacha today, having to do with being a sandik. Chazal say that the sandikos of holding the baby during a bris is analogous to the offerer of ketoris, and therefore a father should not offer the same person sandikos for multiple children. So if you offered your shver to be the sandik for your first son, you shouldn't offer him to be the sandik for your second or third or fourth son, because there's a din that once he's been the sandik already, someone else should do it, someone else should have the zechus, because just like the offer of the ketoris has a skula for ashiras, so too is a sandik. Being a sandik is a skula for ashiras, is a skula for becoming wealthy. So, and why there's a connection between being a sandik and offering the ketoris is beyond the scope of this conversation. We'll talk about it another time. Amar Abaye. So, but what are we bringing this whole thing in for? What we're bringing this whole thing in for is to demonstrate that the Mishnayos and Yoma themselves say, if the second lottery, part of the second lottery was who's going to clean the menorah, and the third lottery is who's going to offer the ketoris, so you clearly see that cleaning the menorah precedes offering the ketoris. How can then our Mishnah say that offering the ketoris is first and then cleaning the menorah is second? Amar Abaya Lokasha, Kan Bahatova Shtei Neros, Kan Bahatova Chamesh Neros. The Gemara says there's a unique property about the cleaning of the wicks. The cleaning of the wicks had to be divided up and interrupted in the middle. And as we'll see later on, we'll see the reason why for it as well. You first had to clean out 5 out of the 7 wicks. Then you interrupted it with the offering of ketores, and then you cleaned out the remaining 2 wicks out of the menorah. Why, we'll learn later on. But the point is, to reconcile these 2 mishnayos is as follows. When our Mishnah says first you offer the ketores and then you clean the wicks, it's referring to the last 2 wicks that haven't been cleaned yet. When the Mishnah is talking about the lottery, it's talking about who's going to be in charge of cleaning the 5 wicks, and then who's going to be in charge of offering the ketores. And that's why the lottery for the wicks was done first, because you first clean out wicks, then you offer the ketores, and then you clean out the last 2 wicks. So the Gemara now says, L'meimer de b'ketores mafsik lahu. Are you suggesting that the activity that interrupts the cleaning of the wicks is the offering of ketores? V'ha'abaya mesader me'aracha mishmei de Gemara u'bedam hatamid mafsik lahu. 1 second. Abaya was teaching the whole protocol of offering the daily service, and it was basing it upon a Masorah that he received from his teachers. And he said that it's not the ketores that interrupts the cleaning of the wicks, but rather the sprinkling of the blood of the korban tamid that interrupts the cleaning of the wicks. So which one is it? So Amri lo kasha hahi la'abashol ha l'rabona. There's a machlokas tanoim as what activity interrupts the cleaning of the wicks. Titania, as the Brisa says, lo yetiv es haneros v'achar kach yaktir, ela yaktir v'achar kach yetiv. The Chachamim say that you should not clean out the wicks and then bring the ketores, but rather bring the ketores, meaning after the first 5 wicks, then offer the ketores, and then clean out the remaining 2 wicks. That's the opinion of the Chachamim. However, Abba Shol Omer, Meitiv Yachar Kach Maktir. Rabbi Shol says, no, clean out all 7 wicks entirely, and then bring the ketores. And then clearly, therefore, Abba Shol holds that the dam is the thing that interrupts the offering of the cleaning of the wicks, not the offering of the ketores. The Gemara now asks, now let's try and understand this machlokus between the Chachamim and Abba Shol. My time at the Abba Shol. Why does Abba Shol say that the ketores only comes completely after the cleaning of the wicks? Dichsiv baboker behetivo es haneros behadar yak tirena, because he looks at the pasuk and that's what the pasuk says to him. It says every morning that Aaron, when he cleans out the wicks, behetivo es haneros, when he cleans or prepares the menorah, then yak tirena, then he shall offer the ketores. The implication is that all of the 7 candles have to have their wicks cleaned, and only then do you offer the ketores. That's the way Abba Shol reads the pasuk. The Rabbanon Mai Ka'amar Rachmana Be'idan Hatava Tehei Makater Ketores. That the Chachamim say no, that's not the right way to read the pasuk. They read the pasuk as follows: while you're cleaning out the wicks, that's when you should offer the ketores. In the interim, while you're cleaning the wicks. So clean out 5 wicks, offer the ketores, and then clean out the other remaining 2 wicks. That's the way they read the pasuk. Now, de'ilo teimahachin, and they say, let me prove it to you. Because there's a parallel pasuk that is written regarding the afternoon service, the afternoon protocol, because it says, bein ha'arbaim d'chsiv uvaha'alos aharon es haneros bein ha'arbaim yaktirena. It says that when Aaron lights the candles in the afternoon, that's when you offer the ketores. Now the word offer the ketores comes after the words lighting the menorah. So what are you going to tell me that what? Hachanami de bereisha madlik neiros v'hadr maktir ketores shel beinu arbaim? Question mark. Are you suggesting, Abba Shol, that because the word yaktirena appears at the end of the pasuk, that you're only supposed to offer the ketores after the lighting of the menorah and not during the lighting of the menorah? Maybe you'll tell me, yes, Taka, that's the halacha, but wait a minute. V'hatanya me'erev ad boker, that the Torah says that the lighting of the menorah shall be done from evening until morning. What do the words from evening until morning teach? So it teaches me 2 things, says the Brisa. Number 1, it tells me that I have to put in sufficient fuel into each candle receptacle so that there'll be enough oil to burn for the entire night. And that teaches me that I look at the longest night of the year, like at the winter solstice, and I see how long the night is, and I have to put in enough fuel on a nightly basis to make sure that even in the longest of nights, the candles will burn until morning. That's one thing that the Torah says Me'erev ad Boker is teaching me. So Davar Acher, another thing that the Torah is teaching me is Me'erev ad Boker, that it is from evening until morning the exclusive avoda. That what? That Ein Lecha Avoda Shekeshera Me'erev ad Boker Elazu Bilvad. That the menorah lighting is the last avoda of the day. There is nothing that comes after it from evening until morning. That's the exclusive service that is done. Now what you see from this latter teaching is that nothing comes after the lighting of the menorah. So you can't tell me, Abba Shaul, that just because the Torah says bring the ketoras after lighting the menorah, that it means that there's a sequence of first lighting and then offering. Because then it'll turn out that the lighting is not the last thing of the day. It must rather mean that while you're lighting the menorah, that's when you're offering the ketoras, not afterwards. So this therefore teaches me that in the morning as well, in the middle of the cleaning out of the wicks, that's when you offer the ketoras.
Does that mean you light 5 licht at night and then do the ketoras and you light the last 2 licht?
No, not necessarily. That's not what the Gemara is deriving from here. We'll have to see why 5 and 2 in the morning. But here, where it's more of there's probably 2 Kohanim. One is doing the ketoras and one is doing the lighting. So it's probably all in the same time.
Kohen Gadol doesn't do the afternoon also?
He doesn't have to. So now the Gemara says, Elamai ka'amar rachmana bi'idan hadlaka tehe maktir ketoras hachanami bi'idan hatava tehe maktir ketoras. So therefore, when the Torah in the afternoon says, while you're lighting the menorah, offer the ketoras, so too in the morning. While you're cleaning the wicks, that's when you offer the ketoras, in the middle of the service, not after the service. So Abba Shaul Amar Lecha, so what's Abba Shaul going to respond to the Chachamim? He says, Shaini Hasa, Dichsiv Osa. He says, I concede that when it comes to the afternoon lighting, since the Torah says Oso, it says only it can only be the last, Oso me erev ad boker, that the only thing that can be done from the evening until morning to the exclusion of all other avodas is the lighting of the menorah, and that's how I know that it's the last service of the day. But that pasuk, that word oso, that exclusionary word oso, is only written in the context of the afternoon. You don't have the word oso written in the context of the morning light, of the morning cleaning of the menorah, and therefore you don't see the same kind of requirement that the menorah has to be done at the end after everything's been done. And therefore, since you don't see that in the morning, that's why I maintain that the ketoras comes completely after the cleaning out of all of the wicks, not like what's done in the afternoon. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos.